Born in 1974 and a graduate of Florida State University, David Robert Mitchell is an independent film writer, director, and producer whose stories focus primarily on the darker aspects of American youth and coming of age. It Follows is Mitchell's second feature film, whose only previous directional credits are The Myth of the American Sleepover and the short Virgin, released in 2010 and 2002, respectively. The story of It Follows concerns itself with the life of 19-year-old Jay Height, who lives at home with her family in the suburbs of Detroit. After a seemingly innocent sexual encounter with an older boy, Jay discovers that someone or something is following her. Jay and her friends attempt to find a way to either escape or, failing that, kill the paranormal entity which relentlessly pursues her. The scene we will be looking at is near the end of the film, in which Jay and her friends are attempting to lead the being that follows her into a trap in which they will electrocute it and hopefully be rid of it for good.
Oh my God. I just walked in the room. It's right there.
It's here?
Right there. Jay, what do you see? I don't want to tell you.
Jay, I need you to point at it, okay? Keep your finger aimed at it so we can see where it is. Is it getting in the water?
It's just standing there staring at me. It's moving. What's it doing? It's walking. It's just walking. Paul, I want to get out.
No! Just wait for it to get in!
No, I don't want to do this. I just want to get out.
What the fuck?
Jay!
Get out of there!
Ah! She's gonna get electrocuted.
No, it didn't work!
You okay? Yeah. Didn't work. Thank God. Jay, look out! Oh my God, somebody help her! What do we do? Watch out, don't get too close! It's right there! Ah! Yara!
Where? Here? Here?
Right there! Where is it? Jay! Come on, Jay!
Give me your hand!
Come on!
Jay!
This scene frequently cuts back and forth between deep and closed space. When the camera is located outside of the pool, we are presented with wide, deep shots of the large room, with the lines on the floor of the pool, the objects arranged on the edge of the pool, and the characters within the scene, giving us depth cues about the space of the scene. This type of space emphasizes the invisibility of the antagonist, drawing our eye to a point in the frame in which nothing exists. When the film cuts to tighter shots of Jay in the water, the camera is no longer steady, and we are given a much more claustrophobic image. Additionally, we can see the antagonist in shots where the camera is actually in the water, mimicking Jay's perspective and also heightening the sense of danger it imparts on the viewer. Close-up shots of Jay utilize closed and often ambiguous space as Jay struggles to avoid the objects being thrown at her, creating a sense of confusion and chaos in the viewer.
The diagonal lines across the bottom of the pool, in contrast with the rigid vertical lines of the mats on the wall, emphasize the sense of weakness that Jay feels in this moment. Throughout the scene, we are continually shown the antagonist framed by the prominent horizontal and vertical lines of the bricks on the wall, showcasing his power over Jay as she tries to survive in the water. At the end of the scene, once Jay has escaped the antagonist, we now see her framed by the vertical lines of the wall mats as she has seemingly defeated the curse and is now safe.
The horizontal and vertical lines surrounding the antagonist during most of the scene form squares which create contrast with the circular lights we see behind Jay in the pool. When the antagonist is in the water with Jay, these same circular lights now cast a strong vertical reflection across the surface of the pool, visually conveying the change in power of this scene, as Jay goes from being hunted to defeating the antagonist.
The primary method of creating surface division in this scene is through the water itself. There are multiple shots which Jay and the antagonist are separated by the line of the water itself splitting the frame, creating discord in the scene and showcasing the monster's power over Jay, as he does not exist in the same ambiguous space as her at the beginning of the scene. Once the power dynamic has been flipped, the tiles create surface division between Jay and the antagonist as he is obscured in a cloud of blood. The monster even enters the room from the right doorway, which is the golden circle, immediately displaying his dominance. Jay's friend Paul is found on the left side frame for most of the shots he is involved in during the scene, until he finally manages to take an effective shot against the monster, at which point he is switched to occupy the golden circle as the gun gives him power. After Jay has climbed out of the pool, she climbs from left to right into the golden circle because she has overcome the monster.
The beginning of the film is filled with oranges. From the light of Jay's house to the car where she ultimately contracts her curse, orange is associated with youth and adolescence. As the film progresses, blue becomes significantly more prominent, with the climactic scene itself being almost completely desaturated of any color other than blue. Blue is associated with adulthood in this film, as adult characters are often framed by or dressed in it. The water represents Jay's continual struggle with leaving her childhood behind and becoming overwhelmed by the challenges of being an adult. She is frequently seen near or in water throughout the film, but always has the ability to get out whenever she wants to, until the end, at which point the burdens of adulthood are metaphorically drowning her as she is literally drowned by the monster. The blue of the water contributes to the theme that adulthood has now become inescapable for Jay, which complements the fact that the pool she has her final battle in is significantly larger than the one we see in her backyard, which, by the way, is broken by the end of the film. Additionally, every surface in the pool room has affinity of color, furthering the idea that she is now trapped in adulthood. Earlier in the story, we find a number of pink images in Jay's bedroom, creating a sense of innocence in her character, and we see that same pink on her underwear when she is tied to the wheelchair and has her first encounter with the monster that chases her. Conversely, when she swims throughout the movie, Jay is wearing a black bathing suit, symbolizing the danger that surrounds water and her mistrust of it.
Movement is used sparingly throughout the film, with characters in most scenes primarily staying completely still. The camera itself makes very slow, deliberate movements, almost as a reflection of the slow and deliberate nature of the monster that follows Jay. The monster walks around the pool counterclockwise from right to left towards chaos. The movement of the characters leads us to look into the center of the frame during almost every shot. The eye trace used here draws our attention towards the objects of power, be it the monster, the devices being thrown, or the gun.
The pace of the film is very slow throughout, with most shots lasting several seconds or longer, even during more intense or action-heavy sequences. This creates a contrast within the climactic scene as the editing rhythm picks up significantly during the fight, matching the intensity of the action. The faster editing style of this scene creates contrast in the space that is presented to us. The primary rhythm of the monster in this scene is still slow and steady, bearing affinity with its movements from earlier in the film. However, the monster's secondary movement is sharp and quick, betraying what we had largely seen of the monster up to this point.
The ambient sound of the scenes that involve the monster match its movement. When it is present in a scene, we immediately hear an unsettling background drone that picks up in pitch and intensity as the monster moves and attacks.
What's it doing? It's walking. It's just walking. Paul, I want to get out.
No! Just wait for it to get in!
No, I don't want to do this. I just want to get out.
What the fuck?
Jay!
Get out of there!
She's gonna get electrocuted.
The high-pitched noise is evocative of the screeches of a dying animal, creating the naturally heightened sense of anxiety that accompanies danger. As the monster picks up various objects, the noises change to reflect the nature of the object itself.
It's Richter!
Highlighting the different ways these seemingly innocuous things may endanger Jay, a theme that extends through the entire film.
Action match cuts are used frequently throughout this scene in order to maintain the continuity of the fighting and to show the damage that Jay sustains at the hands of this monster. Eyeline match cuts draw our attention towards what Jay herself is seeing and the others aren't, which is thematically significant as the characters are forced to rely on her senses to accomplish what theirs can't. All of these elements contribute to the overall theme of the film, that being the loss of innocence. Jay is a character on the cusp of adulthood, and one who literally runs from the responsibilities it induces. She is caught between the need to grow up and face her nature, and the desire to remain a carefree child. She loses her innocence through sex, an act considered by many to be one of the major stepping stones towards adulthood. However, she fears the future this may mean for her. As the film progresses, we see this change represented by her choice of sexual partners. Her first, Hugh, is a typical high school crush in many ways, an older man with a cool car and a sense of nonchalant style who leaves her as soon as he has satisfied his needs. Jay then uses Greg as an immediate rebound for her internal problems, and then further uses a group of nameless men to satisfy her own immediate needs. Ultimately, she ends up attempting a monogamous relationship with Paul at the end of the film, representing a turn towards attempted responsibility in the face of an unknown future that the final shot in this sequence represents.